Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the current political situation of the country and, of course, the impact that it has on Pakistan and the future of the country's economy. Of course, it is pertinent to mention the way in which we have seen PTI coming out in Islamabad with a number of protesters at D Chowk, and we've seen that this has been something as part of the PTI's rhetoric for quite some time, where such calls have also been initiated previously and then have resulted in this disruption in the capital and in the country as well, which of course has led to damage to the country, and something of course that has been addressed in the federal cabinet meeting today by the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif as well, who has condemned such protests and what has happened in Islamabad and the kind of losses that the economy has had to bear because of that, and of course has also reiterated that no such protests will be allowed in the future as well that cause such damage to the country. A repeat of May 9th violence and the ways in which this leverage is taken by the followers and the leaders of PTI. It is of course important to mention in the ways in which we've seen that the security forces personnel and the armed forces have protected the country and have dealt with this protest situation, something that was also lauded by the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif earlier today, and he spoke about how this is because of the security forces and the armed forces preparedness and strategy that such a situation has been handled well. We have also of course seen the ways in which the PSX index also crashed due to this and has improved largely because of the ease of the political situation earlier today, and has surged quite a few points, and because of that of course the investor confidence has also increased, something that directly tells us the impact the situation, particularly the political situation, has on the country's economy and how we need to move forward, and if we do need to progress, then how important political stability will be. And so for that of course, what approach will there be from the government side? What sort of aspects and negotiations are possible or not, particularly when we talk about the PTI, and what about consequences and accountability of such leaders and forces who of course have been quite a force in bringing about such a momentum in the capital, and then of course causing that damage, including loss of lives to security personnel in the country. We have also seen that it hasn't ended there after the disbursement and the abandonment of the leadership of the PTI from the protest side. We have seen that a lot of issues is being discussed with reference to social media, and the fact that the protesters were targeted, the leaders were targeted, is something that the Chief Minister Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has said about himself, and the wife of the founder of PTI, and this is something that has been claimed on social media, the fact that protesters were fired upon without any real claim or evidence, and the fact that this is something that has resulted in the death of the protesters, a claim that has also been refuted by PIMS Hospital, saying that there has been no such recorded deaths at the hospital and that only injuries have been treated. So we're going to be taking a look at what that means in terms of responsibility and accountability by a political party and its leadership on social media, and what needs to be done about that, and of course also moving forward, what is going to be the way ahead for Pakistan in relation to PTI, and of course in relation to political consensus and the economy. That is going to be our focus of the discussion today. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined by a leader PML-N, Ms. Uzma Kardar. Thank you very much, Ms. Uzma, for joining us and being a part of the debate today. I'm going to start with you in terms of your perspective first on what has happened in the past couple of days in the country. It hasn't been new for us in terms of what we've seen from the PTI previously as well, the kind of calls that have been made, the kind of protests and rallies that have been made. Of course, this time around, we also saw Bushra Bibi come to the forefront, but I want your take on what that means in terms of the political mileage that the PTI hope to gain, or the objective that any political party hopes to gain with such rallies and protests, including the fact that of course we had a very important national visit, we have huge losses to the economy that have been incurred, and we put the country on a standstill and caused a lot of damage to the people. So in light of all of that, how necessary are such protests for any political party, and what is wrong in the ways that the PTI has done it?
Thank you so much for inviting me, Sana. I think as a Pakistani, I was absolutely dismayed with this last so called final call, because whenever they make such a call, it is always linked to some delegation, foreign delegation, or some kind of investment venture which the entire nation is anticipating and looking forward to. And believe me, it is heartbreaking to see that when our economic indicators start improving, we somehow disrupt the whole system, disturb the economic stability and the political stability of the country, and cause damage to our efforts of putting Pakistan back on track as far as our economic challenges are concerned. I think that is the crux of what is happening right now. You see, now we are a democratic country, and in democracy, everybody has the right to protest. That does not mean that if we come out to protest for our own rights, we trample on the rights of other people. We cannot do this. Now, the state is responsible for each and every citizen of Pakistan. A peaceful protest. I think we need to really look into this word peaceful and how they have totally mutilated the meaning of the word peaceful. They claim to be peaceful protesters, but what we see is something totally to the contrary. We see them, coming with the from another province, trying to invade the capital of Pakistan with all the government machinery, with KP police armed to the teeth, with tear gas shells, with cranes, and then they claim it to be peaceful. We have also seen their past track record. What was 9th May all about? Everybody talks at one time or the other, all political parties, they talk against the establishment and they try to whip up that narrative. Now, whipping up a narrative and attacking military installations by design systematically, not one, not two, not three, but 30 in one go. What is that? That is an attack on the state. That is an attack on the sovereignty of Pakistan. And this is what they did. This is their track record. So when they say we are peaceful protesters, what is the meaning of peace for them? Is the meaning of peace different for them and the meaning of peace different for the rest of the country? Are their rights the only rights enshrined in the Constitution, and the others have absolutely no rights at all? Their lives are brought to a standstill. They cannot go to schools, they cannot go to offices, they cannot go to markets, they cannot do anything. They cannot go to hospitals. Is that what we call peaceful? And then we also have that 4 month uh, time period in Zaman Park. What happened there? The petrol bumps and the way they attacked the law enforcing agencies, the policemen, how they injured them, how they burnt their vehicles, and how they made or turned Zaman Park into a no-go area. Is that a peaceful protest? We don't mind. We don't mind as the government. We don't mind peaceful protests. Of course, you have the right to protest, but not at the expense of ruining the whole structure and the system of a country. And here, the state has to maintain its writ. And that is exactly what the state did. We suffered 190 billion loss every day because of this. Our GDP went down by 140 billion. Our stock market practically plunged down, and now, thank God, it's come up again 4,000 points. What are these indicators? What do these indicators show? That political stability, economic stability go hand in hand. You disrupt one and you totally disrupt the other. And then what about the foreign delegation, the delegation from Belarus? I think our interior minister, thrice he called KP of CM KP and said, please, can you delay this protest? We have a foreign delegation. There are 75 people expected in the capital. And out of those 75, there are 40 businessmen, investors who came here to invest money in Pakistan. They wanted to help us with their with IT. They wanted to help us in the energy sector. They wanted to invest money. And what kind of show did we put up for them? What kind of thoughts have they gone back with? Thank God that the state and the government contained this violent, I would call it mob, because leadership, when they bring out their party, they're responsible for them. They are not supposed to bring them out as a mob, incite them to violence, incite them against the people of other provinces, and then disappear. And then just disappear, leaving them high and dry to face the onslaught of the consequences. They're the first ones to run away. And that is not leadership, or that is not any kind of sense of responsibility. You have no right to do this to people. You should lead from the front. They should have been standing there and taking the bullets, if any, which they weren't, of course, which is all fabricated. But they were the first to disappear from the scene. And the poor workers were helter skelter. They didn't know what to do, and then of course they suffered. So the thing is that the state cannot allow this to happen again. Our main concern is revival of our economy, and these people, are not allowing that to happen. Whenever there is talk of investment, whenever we had the Shanghai conference, and what did this gentleman in Adiala say about that? Why didn't you disrupt the Shanghai conference? I'm very angry with you. Why didn't you make it difficult for the government to hold the Shanghai conference? What is that? Are you a Pakistani? Does your heart beat for Pakistan? Does your heart beat for the economic revival of Pakistan? Or do you want the Sri Lanka situation there again? And I think time and again, this is what he says. Whenever people go to meet him, whenever media goes to meet him in jail, this is what he says. Oh, Pakistan is at the brink of default. Pakistan is going down, under, blah, blah, blah. So I think this is the crux of the whole situation.
Right.
Now, we have to make Pakistan our red line. We have to put our politics aside. If you want to play politics, you have representation in all the parliaments, sit in the parliament, talk to all the other political parties, come to some settlement, come to some negotiations, whatever. But this is no way to go about it, and this will not be allowed again.
Right. Faisal, I want your perspective on this as well, particularly when we take a look at how this has ended, so to speak, which is something that perhaps CMKP isn't really in agreement with. He's talked about how the sit-in is still going on and that you don't really need people in it. And I'm not sure I understand exactly what he means by that. But I want your take in what it means for the party at this point in time, in terms of the direction that it's giving to its workers, in terms of what it hopes to achieve, in terms of how it is going to take forward. I understand there needs to be some face saving and some sort of rhetoric to put forward. But in terms of how PTI then will proceed further and how this has become a repetitive way of doing things for the party, what do you see now moving forward will be the party stance?
Yes, and obviously if we look at the complete equation of whatever has been happening since almost 4-5 days, it was on the both sides. Both sides there were the Pakistanis, and I mean it has been talked about the people who were on the roads and they were protesting. Yes, protest is their of course democratic right, and that is what Chief of the Army Staff had said as well, and the government, they maintained that they are allowed to of course protest, but this protest doesn't mean that they can enjoy the freedom of creating chaos and of course maintaining the violence. There shouldn't be anyone who should be allowed to obviously come up with the ideas related to violence. Violence should never be allowed, and the kind of violence we have been seeing in last 4 days, that was obviously alarming. And at what time? Obviously at the time when head of the state from Belarus, he was in Pakistan, and he has been, of course, meeting, his delegation was meeting with our ministers, and Prime Minister was meeting him, and Head of State of Pakistan was meeting him, and all of these deals related to improving our economy, they were going on. And at the same time, we know that earlier there was breaking news that he met with the Chief of the Army Staff himself. We shouldn't be forgetting that Pakistan's armed forces, they are fighting against the terrorism, and that terrorism is not only affecting Pakistan, but we should never forget that ISKP is a threat for the whole region. And that is why we have seen that President Alexander Lukashenko, he hailed Pakistan's military and its sacrifices and its fight against terrorism, because eventually Pakistan is not only safeguarding itself from ISIS Khorasan, but it is safeguarding the whole region from ISIS Khorasan, because ISIS Khorasan equally is a threat for rest of the countries as well of the region, and that had been hailed. At this hour, everything should have been smooth in Pakistan, but what we saw, that rather than stopping in the middle somewhere, I was expecting that from a political party, a PTI, a political party who, of course, got momentum in terms of votes in one of the provinces, of course, KPK, they have the government, and they were supposed to, of course, comply with this, that when there is a guest that comes from, he happens to be head of the state and he's visiting your country, it's not only the government's guest, it is, he happened to be guest of the whole nation, and whole nation includes KP government as well. Whole nation completely includes the PTI supporters as well. All of them, they were supposed to make sure that our guest, the nation's guest, was not to be, of course, going through this kind of news in which it was being highlighted that some kind of protesters are coming on the roads and very near to where the Constitution Avenue was. So I was expecting that sanity will prevail, and somewhere in the middle, like let's say at 26 Chungi, or there was another place where they could have Sanjani, they could have stopped there for like let's say 4 or 5 days, stop there, protest there, and create a notion for yourself and come up with these statements in which you say that we know that head of the state from Belarus is in Pakistan, and he is not only guest of the government, he is guest of the whole nation, and in his respect we are staying here and we are not going forward. It would have created a difference. It would have created a difference in terms of PTI as a political party, but we did not see that. Eventually what we saw last night, they, of course, yesterday all day we have been getting the news that chaos was taking place on the roads, and the major roads I'm talking about, obviously that are the major roads of Islamabad. They were coming here and they did not stop. They should have stopped. The sanity must have prevailed. And to me, I think the biggest question mark is on KPK's CM. CM Ali Amin Gandapur, he was the one who was leading it. He is supposed to be part of the government, the current government, when it comes to the security matters, when it comes to the whole country's matters, the matters that affect the whole country. He is part of the meetings. He is someone who's sitting there. And I'm pretty much sure before this nation's guest was coming to Pakistan, he must have been included in the meetings as well, how to maintain everything in coming days so that it is matter of the nation's pride. Being part of that kind of course, security domain of Pakistan, CM of KPK was supposed to comply with the basic sanity, which he did not do. He was the one who was leading it. I am expecting that there should be implications for CM KPK. What kind of implications? Of course, it should be probed and it should be decided on the later stages. But at the moment, of course, I would agree with Uzma Saiba. She has rightly pointed out that people at large who were the merely innocent protesters, who with their affiliation, like Uzma Saiba herself was affiliated with this party before, and never happened in the history of course, this party. We have seen that they had a track record of protesting. In them protest, we never saw this kind of notion that they are going all against, and the kind of footages we are seeing, there were so many people with the weapons, there were so many people with the intent of using them weapons, and that is why of course the force, it was there to be used against them. I am not getting into details whether they have been used or not, or maybe they were just deterred with the air shootings or whatever, but that was supposed to of course push them back.
No, but that's important, Faisal. Did that happen or not?
Important.
Because
And
that's a real important thing that is being circulated on social media. So, can you qualify that?
Yeah, the basic question is, no matter what, this shouldn't have escalated. There should have been a point where obviously the talks should have been initiated.
Yeah.
A person like CMKPK, who has this responsibility on the shoulders, of course it is being maintained that he has the responsibility.
But do you think talks were ever on the agenda for the PTI? Were they ever on the agenda for the PTI?
See, he has two shoulders. He should know that he has two shoulders. Fair enough. He has the responsibility of PTI as a political party on his shoulders, but he should have uses one of the shoulders for the PTI, other one for the sanity, other one for the nation, other one for being part of the government,
right,
and other one for the pride of the government. This is how he should have been moving along with things, rather than just simply being a leader of a group that is out there to completely engulf itself in the violence.
Right, and Farrukh, I want your perspective on that too, in terms of the leadership of the PTI and the fact that the kind of statements that we've been seeing now from the CMKP and the way that this protest rally has ended as well, and also the fact that Bushra Bibi seemed to be missing from the press conference in which she was supposed to be part of earlier, and she was also somebody who was leading from the front as part of these rallies and now nowhere to be seen. So at the end of the day, when we look back, of course, we know that there's been so much damage, there's been loss of lives, there's been loss to the economy, and it's very, very unfortunate. But has there been any gain, even if that was for the PTI? And what is it? What is that even worth in terms of what we have seen previously, and what has this all been about at the end of the day? And given where the party now stands, where can it possibly be headed, and what does that mean for the leadership, including CMKP and Bushra Bibi?
Right, Sana, thank you very much for the question. Let me get principles and theories out of the way first.
Sure.
The first principle: I don't condone violence of any sort, right? And this is one thing that I've been repeatedly saying. Of course, people on both sides were our people, and even one life lost is too many, right? Having said that, I also want to point out that when it comes to competition of violence, I would tend to agree with Max Weber, who says that monopoly on violence should be sole domain of the state. And I think that repeatedly, because that has been challenged in the country, from TTP to TLP, from PTI to God knows how many other things. So the state eventually has to assert back and take back its domain. That said, PTI kept on actually claiming that there are loss of life on their side as well. If there was any, my heart goes out to those people as well, because they were common people. But here's the simple fact. Sagan's constant, Sana. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So please produce that evidence. Don't give me all this manufactured, edited footage of various other countries rather than Pakistan, right? For example, Syria's footages all of a sudden appear, Iraq's also appear in our social media, and that never stops. Yesterday also I pointed out that there seems to be an element of disinformation, weaponized disinformation. Remember the 3 rangers who were killed, who were martyred. At that time their bodies were at PIMS, and there I saw one video, and a like-minded person, a smart person, I like that reporter, but he actually, what did he do? Somebody was standing there claiming that there was a 4th person who was a civilian, I'm his brother. If your brother is killed, you usually take the body and you cry, right? That person is totally in his senses, and he gave a prepared spiel, and he kept on saying something totally different. The reporter did not check any ID, whether he was really who he claimed to be. And then how come he was so sane at that time? So that actually told me that there is some kind of element of disinformation that is there. I can attribute to third party, but that was there. So that's why please provide evidence if there is any need for it. Now your question, what did it achieve? Let me remind you what Einstein said about doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Definition of insanity.
Insanity, right? Repeatedly, this is what has landed them in thick soup. It was their government which lost power, and then they kept on protesting. In the end, May 9th happened, and that's why many people are behind bars. So do you think that you are going to actually get away with the things that you could not in the past? Now the question again is, why did you do it? Because you keep on inhaling propaganda that comes from elsewhere. For example, this idea of Bangladesh, that whatever happened in Bangladesh somehow can be emulated, repeated in Pakistan also. How many times have you seen that happening in Pakistan? There, excuse me, there was only one thing, PNA's movement. After PNA's movement, there hasn't been any kind of regime change based on agitation on streets. So what else can you do? You could have actually used right moment for the right purpose, right? When 26th Amendment was being signed or approved, passed by the Parliament, there were negotiations. At that time, you were also consulted. You could have used that as leverage, but what did you do? Because you don't understand politics, you went and you started making a leader out of Maulana Fazlur Rahman. And you said, look, he's a great man and he's helping us. He used you, and then he went and got whatever he wanted. And today he was standing in front of camera. I know Maulana Fazlur Rahman personally for 20 years, right? I remember in 2014 when he used to have argument with Mian Nawaz Sharif that why are you allowing KPK government to be in the hands of PTI, remove them and give me the power. So today again it was an audition time. He was not supporting you. You could have used 26th Amendment to get whatever you wanted. You did not, you missed that opportunity. Now regarding culpability, excuse me, my throat is not great, so I hope you'll forgive me. I have just heard that it is Gandapur who's somehow responsible for whatever was going on. Anybody who was following what was happening yesterday, day before yesterday, would tell you, and there's footage upon footage, that Gandapur was a hostage in the whole situation. Yesterday he wanted to go to the loo, he wanted to drink tea, workers wouldn't let him do it because Bushra Bibi kept on telling him that the workers that he will not be allowed. Just last night when both of them were about to scarper, what happened? His supporters physically manhandled him. Then he sits in the car and they actually started jumping on the roof and the windshield. And lucky for him that at that time the floating visage of Bushra Bibi appeared out of nowhere, and that's when the workers stopped. Otherwise, I am sure the way they were putting all the pressure, the guy could have been crushed within a vehicle. So it was all in all Bushra Bibi's show, and they were given a great opportunity. They were given opportunity because PTI, if it actually sits at the center and tries to paralyze, now media is not going to show that. But if they sat in Sanjani, I'm sure all the media would have actually given them the kind of coverage they wanted, because then they were not disruptors. But that is not what happened, because somebody had believed that they can project themselves as the great leader and they are going to have the Bangladesh kind of resolution. Now, tell me, did you get what you wanted?
Yeah.
And by the way, who got hurt? A common man on the street. When is Bushra Bibi? When is Gandapur? When is so many other leaders of PTI going to bring their own children and ask them to fight on streets? Why are you making our children scapegoats?
Right, absolutely. And that is something absolutely valid and needs to be questioned from these leaders. Ms. Uzma, I want your perspective also on the social media campaigns and the claims that, of course, the party leaders have been talking about, particularly in terms of being fired upon, the protesters being targeted and killed, something that has also been refuted by hospitals, including PIMS. But I want your take on the fact that social media campaign has always been something that the PTA has used and is something that is key to their campaigns. And I want your take then on how do we move forward with accountability and bringing down such campaigns which are relying on false propaganda and false news and really playing with what people believe and hear and see and deem to be true.
So now let me quote from the recent World Economic Forum, conference that they had, and they came to the conclusion that the most dangerous thing which the world was confronting right now, on top of the list, number one was disinformation, and number three was polarization. Now, disinformation, why is it so deadly? It is deadly because when facts are distorted, when when lies are projected as being the truth, when truth is totally mutilated and projected as a lie, you attack the minds of simple people who now everybody these days has a smartphone. Whatever disinformation you spread on social media, within seconds, it reaches in the hands of the most, uh, you know, uh, not just vulnerable, but the most impressionable youth or the most impressionable segments of society who are in the formative stage, who are not, whose minds are not mature enough, and their minds get tampered with. They get exploited by all these this wrong information and this deliberate agendas of different elements to promote, whether it's their political agenda, whether it's their social agenda, whether it's their religious agenda. So all this information, it takes just seconds to go viral. And when something goes viral, the problem is that especially our youth, they don't verify anything. They just take it to be true. For example, I think in this modern day world, uh, social media is a revolution, but it has its pros and cons. Now, if we focus on the pros, they are multiple. The whole world has digitalized. We are, most countries are doing e-commerce, jobs. There, people are earning millions of dollars sitting at home through these digital media jobs. But in our country, what has happened is that we have gone more towards the cons. The negative aspect has been has dominated everything to the extent that the positive side is now suffering. Many freelancers, many people who were earning have lost their earnings. Why? Because of so many restrictions being imposed. Now you see, the state cannot afford all this disinformation, especially when you hit at the core of the state institutions, especially when you malign, when you spread fake news, when you spread lies about your national security institutions. The state cannot afford that, and therefore, uh, reluctantly and not really wanting to do it, they have to go for things like firewall, etc. Now, I think this is such a disservice to the country. If only these people realize that because of what they are doing, because of the social agendas, which and the and their so-called I don't know. I will only say exploitation of people. They are ruining this very, very positive aspect of social media. But like our army chief said, this is digital terrorism and it has to be stopped. There are different countries, they have formed different laws to counter this. It is not just Pakistan. Many other countries are facing this problem also, and they have also brought in certain laws, stringent laws, to curtail this kind of use of social media,
Right.
because we cannot, you see, we cannot really hope to develop and prosper if we do not digitalize Pakistan. So therefore we have to maintain a balance, and the state is trying its best to do it. But we've seen how PTI, they hired professional companies. They have hired people, these companies, by paying them millions of dollars, and professionally they have set up all these bots and these fake accounts through which they disseminate all this fake propaganda. Now, for example, they are looking left, right, and center, and they're projecting as though many people have been killed in this protest, whereas nobody has been killed. So this fake news, they're spreading fake news. Oh, there's so many of our workers have been killed, and blah, and so much so that this gentleman, I think Matiullah, I would rather take his name. I mean, the stupidity of this gentleman. He has ruined his credibility by spreading this nonsense that the rangers who lost their lives, that was done deliberately by the law enforcing agencies. I mean, there is no end.
Right,
There is no
absolutely.
end
And
to
I,
the.
right, I totally understand that, Ms. Uzma. Absolutely, you're correct on those terms, in terms of the kind of aspects that we have seen as part of the political rhetoric in the past and even now. But thank you so much for joining us in the debate and sharing your views with us. But of course, this brings us to another question, Faisal. I want your take on this in terms of the fact that where is the consequence? The Prime Minister, in the address in the Federal Cabinet, has also spoken about how if the people involved in May 9th were already punished, and we wouldn't have really seen the situation. And so I want your take on then what that means in terms of actual actionable consequence for these people.
Yes, and obviously when we talk about 9th May, it was a disastrous day, and we keep on repeatedly seeking justice in terms that it must be probed at the best of the levels. There must be a judicial inquiry of it, and there must be a probe that is exemplary for futures to come. Nobody should be allowed to do whatever happened on 9th May, and to me, I think that once for all needs to be probed, needs to be justified, and needs to be, justice must be done. As they say, justice delayed is justice denied. If that justice wasn't delayed, of course, today we wouldn't have been seeing the position.
But why is it delayed?
Well, there are many other constraints in terms that military courts, they wanted to of course probe these people. Then there are many hurdles as well, and there are many people who are captured in context with the 9th May. There are proofs, but yet again, of course, when it comes to solving the question, this question of whether they should be allowed to be carried out by the military courts or not, I mean, that still is there. Pakistan is a democratic country. Of course, there is a judicial system, and of course, we shouldn't be forgetting that there are extraordinary kind of situations which are being faced by Pakistan when it comes to, of course, fighting against the war and terror. We know that there are special arrangements that needed to be made. Then special arrangements should include the very people, the domestic sort of terrorism as well. I would call it domestic terrorism, because these sort of things, they not only create divides within the institutions, but the whole nation gets divided on these kind of incidents. These kind of incidents, they need to be probed. And one more thing I wanted to share here, government has lots of good things to of course highlight. I think we have a set precedent from American elections, in which we saw that TV channels, if we tuned into TV channels during the elections, Kamala Harris was winning everywhere. Kamala Harris was, the narratives of Kamala Harris, they were being shown as she has just knocked down Trump, but Trump was focusing with help of course, Elon Musk on the social mediums, especially Twitter X. And what we saw, that the best people were of course hired by them to sharpen the narrative, and eventually they won.
Right.
What needs to be done here is, we know that government has improved the economy and the stock exchange is going way high. All of these positive indicators, when it comes to FDIs coming into Pakistan, that is going so smooth as well. SIFC is playing pivotal role, and many other sectors of Pakistan, they have seen unprecedented improvement and positivity.
Right.
Why can't we have the right people on the social mediums to of course highlight this? And there is a mechanism that can be applied to of course highlight it on the social mediums. First of all, open all of the social mediums so that people have more trust in the government, people have more trust in the state, people have
Right.
more trust in the system. Once they are opened, make the best people, hire them, and make them sit on the social mediums, and
Right.
very positively, all of these positive things, positive narratives, they need to be highlighted so that they can be penetrated within the society of
Right,
Pakistan.
absolutely. I
and
totally
everything
understand,
gets
and the
adjusted.
impact that it creates. And Farrukh, I want your perspective on that as well, particularly the fight against social media campaigns as well, and of course the impact that it has on the economy. We've seen how we've seen the indicators change, but of course this is something, whenever there's any political instability, there are these changes. But what then is the approach of the government of preventing that, of moving towards accountability, and of targeting this on social media? Is that something that we can be doing?
Right. Thank you very much again. Very quickly, before that, I have to actually talk about judicial inquiry into May 9th. Yeah, let us do that, right? There was a Chief Justice of Pakistan on 10th of May who actually welcomed the former Prime Minister Imran Khan and said, "Good to see you."
Yeah.
Let him make let us make him the head of judicial inquiry and then see what happens. Right? This is the judiciary which allowed this to happen. Right? And if you are saying that inquiry should be there, there's enough evidence. Come on. If we want to try, just talk to the judiciary and they should do their job. If they keep on actually putting brakes, then they are going to face the consequences, because this kind of thing is going to boomerang on everybody, right? Now, regarding what you were saying about social media, I think most of this disinformation campaign is coming from those people who are sitting abroad, and they are primarily were favorites of our state during PTI's time. They were really pampered, and this is the time when you have to actually talk to the social media companies as well as the heads of those countries as well. What exactly do you want in Pakistan? Do you want Pakistan to actually see some kind of major bloodshed? If not, at least restrain them to the extent that they are not creating the kind of civil war kind of narratives, and they are confusing masses so much that people actually keep on thinking that perhaps things are going really awry. Regarding media regulation, I think that in the past 2 days I have seen that even VPN was failing to let us reach Twitter, Facebook, Twitter and a couple of other websites, not Facebook. So I think that the government has found the firewall, but the problem is technology keeps on growing exponentially. So tomorrow there is going to be some antidote that nobody will be able to control. So the best thing is, again, counter narrative is good, but this time don't invest in people who are going to actually boomerang on you. I very quickly, I just wanted to remind you what happened during Afghan Taliban's takeover. Somebody, a friend of mine actually, went to certain very powerful people and he said, "Why are you investing in there used to be a couple of people on television in those heckle and jekylls. Why not listen to this kind of guys and he can actually do better?" And they said, "The people like him don't listen to us when the moment comes." And then PTI fight started, and the heckle and jekyll were actually the people, agent of chaos. So the point is, at least find proper people, smart people whose loyalties are with the state, not with partisan gimmickry.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us in the debate and being part of the show as always. That's all that we have time for. We'll now see you tomorrow.